Chapter 10:21. Han Shuok didn't know about Salus's past, nor did he know what was going through Salus's mind at the moment. However, after scanning the area with his divine sense, he could tell how excited the gods were from their expressions. He didn't say much as he was at the bottom of the ninth realm mystical harvester. After giving his orders, he continued to refine his body with the mystical aura. To Han Shuo, the battle of the gods was important, but the most important thing was to unleash his full power. The barrier of Eternia would break one day, and when that happened, his value would come to an end. The quintessence overgods like the goddess of destiny, the god of light, and the water goddess Manju tolerated all of his requests, but once he lost his value, they would definitely kill him. From what Nestet, Omphalos, and Garado had said, Han Shuo could vaguely guess what the quintessence overgods were planning. He knew that once the barrier of Eternia was broken, they would attack him before he could even enter Eternia. To them, the threat of the demon lord Gu Tianxia's successor was no less than the threat of the All-Mother. Although according to the agreement, Nestet, Omphalos, and Garado had said that they would help him when the time came, the agreement was the most unreliable thing. Whether or not those treacherous fellows could be trusted was still a question. Naturally, Han Shuo wouldn't bet his life on them. Therefore, the only thing Han Shuo could do was to do his best to improve his strength, no matter the cost or the means. This was also why Han Shuo would rather risk offending all the quintessence overgods to get a share of the divine soul from the goddess of destiny or Sija. Streams of electric light that were hard to be seen by naked eyes merged into Han Shuo's devil body, pulsating ceaselessly on Han Shuo's skin, flesh, pores, bones, internal organs, and even his brain. Han Shuo's body was like a bottomless black hole, sucking in all the Yin energy. The enormous amount of mystical Yin energy came from the energy that had been gathered on Elysium for countless years. With the help of the ninth realm mystical Yin harvester, Han Shuo could gather the mystical Yin energy to the greatest extent possible. In 200 years, the ninth realm mystical Yin harvester would be able to absorb all the mystical Yin energy on Elysium. As the mysterious Yin Qi entered his body, Han Shuo calmed himself down and became silent again, as if he had been petrified. His main body never left the pandemonium, while Han Shuo's avatar roamed around the dominions of light, life, and water. Whenever a battle broke out, Han Shuo's avatar would appear and the cauldron of myriad demon would take the opportunity to absorb the souls of the dead. Time passed quickly. The battles on Elysium grew fiercer and fiercer. Han Shuo enjoyed it, using the cauldron of myriad demon to roam around the dominions of destiny. The dominions of light, life, and water had no choice but to withdraw their attacks on the dominion of destiny. The experts from the god of light, led by Jar, hastily returned before the dominion of destiny was destroyed. Jar and the others didn't have any spatial matrices they could use, so they were obviously at a disadvantage. By the time they returned to the god of light had suffered heavy losses. The experts from the dominions of darkness, death, destruction, and fringe, led by Yaris, Balans, and the others, went on a killing spree in the dominion of earth. They destroyed several cities in the dominion of earth and headed straight for the central shrine of the dominion of earth. Little Skull's Godhunter subordinates didn't officially participate in the battle due to their sensitive identities, but they did their best to beat the enemy when they were down. Little Skull's Godhunter subordinates were like fish in water, taking advantage of the chaos in the dominion of earth. When the experts from the dominions of wind, fire, lightning, and earth saw that Jar and the others had returned, and that the dominion of earth had been slaughtered by Yaris, Balans, and the others, they had no choice but to temporarily abandon their attacks on the god of light. They ordered the experts from the dominions of wind, fire, and lightning to rush back to the dominion of earth while retreating from the dominions of god of light. In this battle that engulfed the entire Elysium, there was one faction that stood out like a sore thumb: the Han family demon guards. The Han family demon guards who came out from the 8 Desolation and Torment formation numbered only 1,000 or so. But it was these demon guards that had performed miraculously in the battle. The 1,000 demon guards from the Han family were like an incomparably sharp blade that pierced straight into the heart of the dominion of earth. Any divine guard from the dominion of Earth who ran into the 1,000 demon guards from the Han family would be utterly annihilated. Even though there were only 1,000 demon guards, they were able to cooperate with each other with incredible rapport. With the help of all kinds of small-scale demonic formations, the 1,000 demon guards from the Han family were able to maximize their group strength. It was precisely because of the existence of the 1,000 demon guards from the Han family that Yaris and the others were able to rampage through the dominion of Earth as though there was no one else around. In no time at all, the reputation of the Han family demon guards spread across the entire Elysium. All the divine guards in the battlefield knew of this army that was as sharp as a butcher's knife. The experts from the dominions of wind, fire, and lightning were all frightened out of their wits. They hastily gathered their forces and secretly sent people to observe the 1,000 demon guards from the Han family, hoping to find a way to resolve the situation in the upcoming battle. Because of the 1,000 demon guards from the Han family, all the divine guards on Elysium realized the importance of teamwork. They started putting in effort in this aspect, hoping to shorten the gap between them and the Han family demon guards. The war was still ongoing. More than 10,000 gods had died on Elysium. About 7,000 divine souls had been collected by Orsija. Although Han Shuo had Fernando's help, he had only managed to collect about 3,000 divine souls. But even with only 3,000 divine souls, Han Shuo could sense that the cauldron of myriad demons' power was growing stronger. After more than half of the divine souls were refined into demon generals, the connection between Han Shuo's body and the cauldron of myriad demon could no longer be broken on Elysium. Although Han Shuo's body was deep beneath the pandemonium, through the connection between him and the cauldron of myriad demon, he knew the situation on Elysium like the back of his hand. With a single thought, the cauldron of myriad demon would respond accordingly and collect large amounts of divine souls. At this point, the souls of Han Shuo's avatars were no longer of much use. The avatars that were formed from the energies of this world were still unable to fuse completely. Although the two souls came from the demon generals inside the cauldron of myriad demon, they could not control the cauldron with ease. They still needed Han Shuo's body to command them. One day, the idol Han Shuo's avatar returned to the pandemonium. Just as he landed, Rose suddenly came up to him. She looked at Han Shuo's avatar and said, "Brian, I have something to tell you." Chapter 10:22. Han Shuo felt his scalp go numb. With a bitter face, he followed Rose to a protruding hill in the pandemonium. This hill was one of the bases of the Ninth Realm Mysticaline Harvester. Usually, no one would come to this place due to its remote location. Landing on the small peak, Han Shuo couldn't help but smile wryly as he looked at the hesitant Rose with knitted brows. He truly didn't know what to say. After a long moment of silence, Rose turned her gaze to Han Shuo and said indifferently, "Brian, our master-slave contract hasn't been dissolved yet, right?" Han Shuo secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "So that's how it is. It can be dissolved at any time." "Haha, why don't I dissolve it for you right now?" Han Shuo hastily said with a smile. "Okay," Rose nodded lightly. Tanai's main body, who was in the pandemonium, moved his consciousness and broke the soul bond that bound the two of them. The so-called soul contract was nothing to the current Han Shuo. The soul contract was actually an alternative form of the power of destiny. When they formed the soul contract, the goddess of destiny could obtain a portion of the power through the soul contract and use the mirror of destiny to twist their destinies. However, when Han Shuo became a demon lord, his destiny was no longer under the control of Orsija, the goddess of destiny. The reason why the soul contract between him and Rose was that Han Shuo had deliberately left it there. Therefore, Han Shuo moved his consciousness and the soul contract was dissolved. "So, we are equal now," murmured Rose. Then, she bravely looked at Han Shuo and said seriously, "I don't want to be your slave. I want to be like Emily, like Phoebe. Brian, you know what I mean." Han Shuo, who had just heaved a sigh of relief, was stunned when he heard Rose's words. He forced a smile and said awkwardly, "Rose, what are you talking about?" Given the strength of Han Shuo's consciousness and the existence of the soul contract, how could he not know Rose's feelings? "You know what I'm thinking. Don't try to pretend." Rose coldly groaned and glared at Han Shuo. She exposed him. You have a soul link with me. You know what I'm thinking. Stop pretending. Han Shuo was dumbfounded. After a long silence, he shook his head and said with a bitter smile, Why are you acting like this? You've been in pandemonium for so long. You should know that I don't have the time to accompany Emily and the others. I've been spending all my time on cultivation. Following me is akin to jumping into a sea of misery. Why bother? I don't care. Rose looked straight at Han Shuo and said word by word, Even if it is the endless sea of bitterness, it is my choice. Rose took a deep breath. Her ample bosom heaved up and down as though she was afraid to accept the result. She lowered her head and said, Just tell me if you can or can't. Back in the Darkness Dominion, it was Rose who had always been by his side. Whether it was in the City of Shadows or the battle at Hushvale City, it was Rose who stood by his side. After he arrived at the Fringe, it was also Rose who helped him recruit Romont, Zovik, and the others. She had been a great help to him. Han Shuo was a sentimental person. After spending so many years together, he had always lacked the willpower to refuse a woman. What could Han Shuo do when Rose looked him in the eye and demanded an answer? After thinking for a moment, Han Shuo put on a bitter smile and said, There are so many of them. I don't mind adding you to the list. However, my time is dwindling and I won't have many chances to spend time with you. You are just asking for trouble. Rose, who had her head lowered, did not dare to look at Han Shuo. But when she heard Han Shuo's words, she suddenly raised her hand and looked at Han Shuo with glowing eyes. Sometimes all she needed was an answer, not an everlasting companion. Han Shuo, like Emily, Rose, and the others, did not have the chance to enjoy the pleasures of having women in his arms. Although Tanai had a lot of women, none of them were willing to let Han Shuo, his avatar, touch them. Although it felt good to have a pure spirit, Han Shuo felt that something was missing. Even though Han Shuo was in the pandemonium, he had to receive a lot of news from Nestet, Omphalos, and Gurado every day. Balans, Sanguiner, and the others were never afraid to disturb him. They would report every step of the battle to him in detail through the spatial mirror. The allied forces led by the dominions of darkness, death, destruction, and chaos rampaged through the dominion of Earth, killing many gods in the dominion of Earth. When the allied forces of the dominions of wind, fire, lightning, and earth were forced to retreat from the dominion of God of Light, Han Shuo had also moved the cauldron of Myriad Demon from the dominion of God of Light to the dominion of Earth. The battle in the dominion of Destiny had temporarily calmed down. The goddess of Destiny, Ursija, had also turned her attention to the dominion of Earth, which was about to erupt. As such, it was inevitable that Han Shuo and Ursija would have to fight over the divine souls of the slain gods. Fortunately, the two of them were quite self-aware. Whenever they saw the other party collecting divine souls in a certain area, the other would immediately move to another location. Under the control of the two, the Mirror of Destiny and the Cauldron of Myriad Demon split up to collect the divine souls of the Dominion of Earth. Finally, the elites of the dominions of Wind, Fire, Lightning, and Earth, who had ventured deep into the dominion of God of Light, joined forces with the gods originally stationed in the dominions of Wind, Fire, Lightning, and marched into the dominion of Earth. The two powerful forces officially clashed. With the dominions of Wind, Fire, Lightning, and Earth on one side, and the dominions of Death, Destruction, Darkness, and Fringe on the other, a great war broke out in the dominion of Earth. The dominion of Earth, Red Earth City. The gods of the dominions of Wind, Fire, Lightning, and Earth stood densely on the city gates. Their energy crystal cannons fired blazing energy crystals at the city gates. Outside Crimson Earth City, the gods of Death, Darkness, Destruction, and Fringe, led by Yaris, Balans, Sanguis, and the others, were charging towards Crimson Earth City without a care for their own safety. They were trying to annihilate every god in the city. Among them, the 1,000 demon guards of the Han family of Pandemonium were the most eye-catching. They were lined up in an orderly formation. Led by Balans, Sanguiner, and Gilbert, the 1,000 demon guards of the Han family were like a sharp knife stabbing into Red Earth City. The Han family demon guards were able to calmly dodge the energy crystal cannons fired from above Red Earth City, maintaining a steady speed as they charged towards Red Earth City. Brian was able to become the master of the pandemonium in such a short time and gain the recognition of the quintessence overgod. It was no mere fluke. Yaris, who was charging from the other side, sighed deeply when he saw the Han family demon guards advancing triumphantly. I'm afraid I can't call him by his name anymore. The Lord of Blackwater curled his lips and said softly, "It seems that it wasn't a shame that we lost to him back then. I've already regarded that battle with him as an honor." The Lord of Blackrock City shouted. His eyes glowed with divine light. "That's right. Even if we lose, it will be a lifelong honor to have the opportunity to fight such a character." Yaris nodded and smiled. He took the lead and said, "Hurry up, the Fringe Dwellers have stolen the limelight. Don't wait for the Overgod to blame us for our incompetence." Upon hearing Yaris' words, the experts of the Dominion of Darkness charged forward with all their might. One after another, they swarmed towards Red Earth City. "We've broken through. Ha!" Sanguis soared into the sky with a blood-colored radiance. He let out a shrill howl and swung the broadsword in his hand. Blood gushed out of the bodies of many gods on the city walls. They died on the spot with blood gushing out of their 7 orifices. Seizing the opportunity, Sanguiner, Gilbert, and Ballins landed on top of Red Earth City and killed all the gods around the energy crystal cannons. Without the protection of the energy crystal cannons, Red Earth City could only rely on the power of the barrier to defend itself. Every city's barrier had a limit to its defensive power, and now that it was being bombarded by the gods, Red Earth City's barrier quickly reached its limit. Asterisk crack. Asterisk a loud crack sounded. Red Earth City's boundaries shattered, and the entire city was exposed. Attack. The gods of darkness, death, destruction, and the Fringe roared with laughter as they charged into the city. They killed anyone they saw and stood together with the Red Earth City Divine Guards. The entire Red Earth City was covered in dark clouds. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The earth was torn apart, the wind howled, and the flames spread. Asterisk, 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 my lord. We've won Red Earth City. The city gates have been breached. Even if we can't achieve a complete victory, we've dealt a heavy blow to the 4 dominions. It was at this moment that Tanai, Zovik, came to Han Shua's side and reported. Han Shua, who was sitting in the middle of a group of beautiful women and explaining the secrets of various energies with a bitter face, nodded and asked, "I'm not surprised that Red Earth City was breached. Is there anything else special?" The experts from the dominions of light, life, and water left not long after returning to Light City. Zovik asked with a bunched brows after a moment of hesitation. Which direction did they go? Han Shua stared blankly for a moment before he asked smilingly, in our direction. If I'm not mistaken, their destination should be the Fringe." Zovik replied with a bitter smile. Han Shua cried out in surprise. He then shouted, "Ha! It seems that Astinx and the others are treating us like pushovers. The way I see it, they're afraid of our Han family's 1,000 demon guards. They want to take advantage of the Fringe's absence to annihilate us." Zovik harumphed coldly, as if he despised the dominions of God of Light's actions. "That's a good choice." Han Shua smiled and said, "The dominions of Earth are in a chaotic war right now. Even with the spatial matrix, we can't take care of both sides. That Astinx's judgment is quite accurate." "My lord, what should we do?" Zovik asked worriedly. "Tanai really doesn't have many experts. Once their allied forces enter Hexopolis, I'm afraid we won't be able to hold them off." "Don't worry, do what you have to do." Han Shua consoled Zovik before he sneered, "Hee. As long as Goldie and the others are in Hexopolis, let them come." As soon as these gods from the Dominion of Space entered Hexopolis, they used the power of spatial teleportation to fill in every corner of the city, filling in the gaps in the city's defenses. Why are you here?" Han Jin asked curiously as he looked at McKinley, who had teleported to his side. Our Space Dominion's responsibility is to provide support to the other dominions at all times. Now that the dominions of darkness, death, and destruction are safe and sound, It's only the fringe that's under attack. After a short pause, McKinley smiled and continued, even if all three dominions are under attack at the same time, I will still choose the fringe to salvage the situation. McKinley and the Han family had a close relationship. Han Shuo had offended the god of light, Astinx, for McKinley's sake. He had even pulverized Jar, one of the three keepers of the light, for the Han family. Han Jin, let me introduce you. This is Care. He has come specifically for Jar. Haha, of course, I will also deal with Jar, but I'm afraid I won't be a match for Jar. McKinley smiled as he introduced to Han Jin a long-bearded, white-haired old man. He cultivated in the Edict of Space and had returned to Elysium after a long journey through space. He was sent by Fernando to fight Jar. Ah, nice to meet you. Han Jin greeted the old man with a smile. Shortly after, he said, it seems that Jar is dead for sure. McKinley and Care shared a similar smile. They looked at the approaching army of the Dominions of Light, Life, and Water and asked, how should we deal with them? Just watch, it's about to begin. Han Jin smiled and suddenly let out a shrill cry. Han Jin's shrill cry was followed by the cries of Han Shuai, Han Mu, Han Hua, and Han Tu from the other four directions of Hexapolis. All of a sudden, Han Jin dived into the ground. The earth tore open a hole and enveloped Han Jin. Rumble, rumble. The moment Han Jin landed on the ground, the entire Hexapolis seemed to tremble. Loud rumbles could be heard. Suddenly, right in the middle of the dominions of light, life, and water, the earth started tearing apart and sinking deep. Sharp spikes shot out from the ground, piercing through many gods from the three dominions. Boiling lava rose into the sky, wreaking havoc in all directions. An enormous mass of black light exploded in the middle of the dominions. Many of them were blasted into nothingness, their souls dispersing. In that instant, apart from the pandemonium, the entire world seemed to have changed. Thick black clouds covered the entire sky, blocking out all light. Amidst the oppressive dark clouds, streaks of black light and icicles rained down, pulverizing many more gods from the three dominions. The world seemed to have returned to a state of deathly stillness. The penta-elemental undead formation was pushed to its limit. The penta-elemental undead formation was activated to the extreme. It was like an incomparably huge killing machine, leaving no survivors wherever it passed. The allied forces from the three celestial realms were torn to shreds, their souls flying into the void one after another. McKinley and Care, the two experts from the Space Dominion, had prepared a plan and were about to discuss it with Han Jin. However, they found out that the battle had broken out in the blink of an eye. The two did not even see anyone from Hexapolis making a move. What the F***CK is going on? After a while, Care, a pseudo-overgod from the Space Dominion, who had always been gentle and refined, cursed. McKinley's face turned bitter. He shook his head and sighed. I told you that the Han family of Pandemonium is extremely powerful. Do you believe me now? Care was stunned. He stared blankly for a moment before he shouted, isn't this a little too much? I didn't even see anyone enter the battlefield. Isn't such destructive power something only quintessence overgods can possess? Is it because I've been away from Elysium for too long that I can't keep up with the times? After hesitating for a long time, Carrie stared blankly at McKinley and said, are they breaking the rules by doing this? Will the quintessence overgods participate? How would I know? McKinley forced a smile. Ever since the last battle in the Fringe, apart from Han Jin, who advanced further in the crystal explosion in Hexapolis, the other four elite zombies had each obtained a pseudo-overgod's divine soul. When Pandemonium Tanai's ninth realm mystical harvester took shape, the elite zombies, with the exception of Han Shuo, got a share. With the help of Pandemonium Tanai's vast mystical aura and a pseudo-overgod's quintessence, the elite zombies broke through to new realms. Now, even in a one-on-one battle, the elite zombies were no weaker than an average pseudo-overgod. When the elite zombies joined forces to form the penta-elemental undead formation, their strength would increase by more than 5 times. The elite zombies were extremely unique life forms. When the energy they cultivated fused with the profound edicts of this world, The power they could generate when they deployed the penta-elemental undead formation was earth-shattering. This was also why Han Shuo said that as long as the elite zombies were present, the gods from the dominions of light, life, and water could do whatever they wanted. McKinley and Carey weren't the only ones who were flabbergasted. Even the gods who were originally stationed in Hexopolis were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes. Although the 5 elite zombies rarely roamed around Hexopolis, many people knew who they were. When they saw the 5 elite zombies suddenly unleash a terrifying wave of destruction, the people of Hexopolis and the reinforcements from the Overgod of Space were dumbfounded. Lord McKinley, experts from the Destiny Dominion have arrived at the fringe. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from McKinley's magical mirror. McKinley was startled. He immediately contacted the transmitter and learned that the experts from the Destiny Dominion had managed to evade the eyes of the Space Dominion and were heading towards the fringe. The fringe was located between the Destiny Dominion and the Space Dominion. The distance between the fringe and the Destiny Dominion was even smaller. They could reach the fringe in no time at all. This is bad. It seems that the Destiny Dominion is taking this opportunity to attack the fringe, McKinley cried to Care. It is also possible that the Destiny Dominion is targeting the dominions of light, life, and water. After all, the dominions of light, life, and water were the first to attack. Care bunched his brows and said, "But, given the Destiny Dominion's modus operandi, it is most likely that they are trying to take advantage of the situation and attack the experts from the fringe and the dominions of light, life, and water." McKinley sneered and said, "If they want to take advantage of the situation, they'll have to get past you first." McKinley, don't be rash. Care frowned and shouted, "Even the allied forces of the dominions of light, life, and water couldn't gain the upper hand against the Destiny Dominion. I'm afraid we are no match for them. Why don't we quickly contact the experts from the dominions of darkness, death, and destruction and have them come to the fringe?" McKinley calmed down after hearing Kare's reminder. He thought for a moment and said, "This is the safest way. Let's do it." My lord, the gods of the Destiny Dominion have retreated again." A voice suddenly sounded from the magical mirror. "What?" McKinley and Care exclaimed in unison. They exchanged a glance and smiled bitterly as they looked at the huge commotion outside the fringe Hexopolis. They suddenly understood why the gods of the Destiny Dominion had retreated. If they were in the fringe Hexopolis shoes, they would have chosen to retreat as well. Chapter 10:24. The gods from the Dominion of Destiny had arrived abruptly and left without a trace. McKinley and Carey had already prepared themselves for a bloody battle. After all, the Dominion of Destiny was a force to be reckoned with. Neither of them dared to underestimate the Dominion of light, life, and water. The Dominion of Destiny was the most powerful dominion on Elysium. McKinley quietly put away the magic mirror in his hand. He had a bitter smile on his face as he stared at the experts from the light, life, and water dominions, whose numbers continued to decrease amid the destructive power. For a time, he didn't know what to say. McKinley had known all along that Han Shu must have grasped a tremendous amount of power, but he did not expect that Han Shua's power would be this strong. Han Jin, Han Shui, Han Mu, Han Hua, and Han Tu, all of whom possessed demi-overgod strength, were wreaking havoc outside Hexopolis with the help of the penta-elemental undead formation. It was at this moment that Pandemonium Tanai and Pandemonium arrived. As soon as Astinx, the god of light, and Manju, the water goddess, entered Pandemonium, Han Shua's avatar in the depths of the valley immediately sensed their presence. His avatar in Tanai welcomed them. "What an honored guest." Han Shua laughed heartily. Tanai looked at Astinx, the water goddess, and Manju, the water goddess. "Han Shua, you are breaking the rules," Astinx said in a deep voice, his smile gone. At the same time, Han Shua, who was deep underground, sensed that the goddess of life had arrived at Hexopolis. She unleashed an incomparably powerful storm of life, first restoring the life force of the gods whose souls had yet to leave the dominions of life, light, and water. Then, She used the storm of life to disrupt the souls of the 5 elite zombies so that they could no longer maintain the penta-elemental undead formation. Han Shua's face jolted and he shouted, "Astings Manju, what is the meaning of this?" After Han Shua shouted, he immediately contacted Fernando, the god of space. Before Astings, the god of light, could reply, a dimensional tunnel formed in Tanai. Fernando, Nestet, Omphalos, and Gurado appeared and glared at Astings and Manju. What did those 5 do outside Hexopolis? Manju shrieked, "Half of the allied army of the 3 dominions have been killed by those 5. Isn't this breaking the rules?" Manju's shriek stunned Fernando, Nestet, Omphalos, and Gurado. They had no idea what was going on. It was only after hearing Manju's words that they put on a puzzled look. Fernando looked at Han Shua and asked, "Is that true?" Han Shua nodded and shouted at Astings and Manju. Those 5 all possess demi-over-god strength. Not a single one of them possesses the power of a quintessence. There are also quite a few demi-over-god experts among the invading gods. How did I break the rules? Individually, the 5 of them possess the power of a demi-over-god. However, when they joined forces, they possessed the power of half a quintessence. Astings was enraged and lost his usual composure. He shouted, "If this goes on, what's the point of fighting the war of the gods? If the 5 of them join forces, they can practically wipe out all the dominions. What's the point of this war?" "That's right." Another soft exclamation came from outside. It was Orsija, the goddess of destiny, who had not used the spatial passage to enter the pandemonium. She looked at Han Shua and said, "When the 5 of them join forces, their power is indeed far greater than half a demi-over-gods. However, it's not just the power of 5 demi-over-gods. Han Shua, if this goes on, the war of the gods will be meaningless. It will become a massacre in the fringe." Upon hearing the goddess of destiny's words, Astings and Manju hurriedly chimed in and attacked Han Shua with righteous words. Fernando, Nestet, Omphalos, and Gurado were on Han Shua's side. They immediately started arguing with Han Shua. The 6 quintessence overgods and Han Shua started arguing in the pandemonium. For a moment, no one could gain the upper hand. After a long while, the goddess of destiny realized that this wasn't going to work. She had no choice but to suggest to Fernando, "Let's do it the same way." The 12 quintessence overgods had ruled over Elysium for a very long time. It was common for them to have disagreements with each other. Whenever they disagreed, they would use the method of everyone expressing their opinions. Fernando knew that it wouldn't be beneficial for them to have more people express their opinions, but he had no choice. The rules that had been in place for many years couldn't be changed. He had no choice but to create more spatial passages and send more quintessence overgods to the pandemonium. Just as Han Shua had expected, other than Han Shua and his allies, Fernando, Nestet, Omphalos, and Gurado, the other quintessence overgods all rebuked Han Shua righteously and sternly stopped Han Shua's tyrannical behavior. Now, including Han Shua and his father, there were a total of 14 quintessence overgods. Han Shua couldn't do anything about the other 8 quintessence overgods. "Forget it. From today onwards, I will stop the 5 of them from joining forces. I don't want them to say that I'm bullying you," said Han Shua helplessly with a shrug. "No, those 5 must not participate in the war. I just noticed that when any 2 of them join forces, their strength will not simply double," said Lena sternly. "I don't know how they do it, but as long as 2 of them are together, they can create terrifying destructive power. With every additional member, the power will increase by more than 10 times. Those 5 must not participate in the war." The other 7 quintessence overgods agreed with Lena's words, but their faces were extremely ugly. They weren't worried about the 5 elite zombies. The 4 overgods of earth, wind, fire, and lightning who had also suffered great losses were just as upset. If he said that the more the merrier, he would immediately be attacked by the crowd. Therefore, he had no choice but to go along with Orsija. "If I don't have any gods at my disposal in the dominions of God of Light, don't blame me for breaking the rules and leaving all of you with no one to fight," Hastings coldly groaned and left angrily. Manju and Lena glared at Han Shuo and followed Hastings out of the pandemonium. The four overgods of earth, wind, fire, and lightning also snorted and entered the spatial passageway. The goddess of destiny gave Han Shuo a sidelong glance and left the pandemonium with a strange expression on her face. She did not use the spatial passageway and left the pandemonium with Hastings and the other two. That's enough. Let's call it a day. Gerardo walked up to Han Shuo and patted Han Shuo's shoulder, saying, "If this goes on, I'm afraid that these fellows won't be able to control themselves. What do you think?" "I've never been one to start a war. I've always been a pacifist. As long as others don't attack me, I won't take the initiative to attack them." Han Shuo spread out his hands, putting on an innocent look. "Are we talking about him?" Nestet pointed at the silent little skull Han Hao and said, "During the war, the god hunters and the 12 dominions ran amok. The situation is getting worse. We can't let this go on." "Oh." Han Shuo nodded and glanced at little skull Han Hao. He smiled and said, "It's fine. You guys can go back now. The war in the Dominion of Earth is still ongoing." "Okay." Nestet and the other two nodded and entered the spatial passageway together. "I'll support you no matter what." When only Han Shuo and his son were left, Fernando, the overgod of space, said indifferently before disappearing, "In the future, I'll leave a spot in your dominion of space," said Han Shuo with a grin after Fernando left. Chapter 1025. The 5 elite zombies no longer participated in the battle. But with the devastating attacks of the 5 elite zombies, the experts from the dominions of life, light, and water who had come to the Fringe suffered disastrous losses. The remaining forces of the Fringe could no longer pose a threat to the Fringe dwellers who were aided by the experts from the Space Dominion. In the end, the experts from the dominions of light, life, and water obediently dispersed. They did not dare to fight to the death. After that, a bloody battle ensued in the Earth Dominion. The experts from the dominions of earth, wind, lightning, and fire, as well as those from the dominions of darkness, destruction, death, and death, suffered heavy casualties. Even the experts under Wasis and Salas perished in the battle. The overgod of light, Hastings, left behind a message before he left the Fringe was a powerful deterrent. The dominions of light, life, and water, which suffered the heaviest losses, did not attack again. The experts from the other dominions also did not dare to challenge Hastings and his companions' bottom line and left them alone. The Destiny Dominion, on the other hand, was completely silent. Ever since they retreated from the Fringe, they seemed to have vanished without a trace. They no longer cared about the conflicts on the continent. The gods of the Destiny Dominion also holed up in the Destiny Dominion. Gradually, the Dominion of Earth was the only one left fighting. When the experts from the dominions of earth, wind, lightning, and fire gathered in the Dominion of Earth, Nestet and his companions could no longer gain the upper hand. For a long period of time, the losses on both sides gradually equalized. Neither side was able to gain the upper hand. In the end, Nestet and his companions, seeing that the situation was getting out of hand, begged Han Shuo to stop the pointless losses. Orsija, the goddess of destiny, had long stated that the mirror of destiny required sufficient divine souls. Faced with the pressure from the quintessence overgods, Han Shuo had no choice but to compromise and say that the cauldron of myriad demon had sufficient divine souls. Han Shuo declared the end of the battle of the gods. In the 50-year-long war, the dominions of light, life, and water suffered the greatest losses. 2/3 of their gods were gone forever. Many cities in the 3 dominions were deserted. The Earth Dominion, Wind Dominion, Fire Dominion, and Lightning Dominion followed closely behind, especially the Earth Dominion. As the largest battlefield, the Earth Dominion was heavily damaged by the allied armies of the Dominion. After that, a series of battles took place in the Earth Dominion, causing many of its experts to die forever. Nestor and the others didn't have much of an advantage in the battle in the Dominion of Earth. The dominions of death, darkness, and destruction also lost quite a number of their people. Many of Wazer's and Salas' subordinates were killed as well. Apart from the first battle against the dominions of light, life, and water, The Dominion of Destiny did not participate in the subsequent battles. Their overall strength was stronger, and they managed to preserve their strength. In this war of gods that swept across the continent, the Space Dominion had suffered the least losses. As a scattered force, they only joined the Earth Dominion in the final battle to help the Death, Darkness, and Destruction Dominion in battle. However, not long after they joined the battle, Han Shuo announced that the Cauldron of Myriad Demon had sufficient divine souls. Therefore, the Dominion of Space was the side that suffered the least casualties. Wasis and Salas had lost many of their subordinates, but the Han family demon guards led by Balans, Sanguiner, and Gilbert did not suffer too many losses. The most dazzling and powerful members of the Battle of the Gods had shocked the entire Elysium with their outstanding overall strength. The Han family demon guards became famous after the battle and became synonymous with the strongest demon guards on Elysium. The Godhunter Alliance led by Han Hao frequently appeared in mountains, lakes, and swamps during the battle. Their shadows could always be seen in places where the battle was intense. However, they never joined the battle in the open. Instead, they chose to attack the experts who were hiding or the gods who came to support them. They were like venomous snakes hiding in the bushes. They would come out of nowhere and bite you when you least expect them to. Then, they would quickly retreat, not giving you a chance to catch them. Everyone had their own opinions on how effective the god hunters under Han Hao's command were in the battle. However, some of the city lords and divine guards who were attacked by the god hunters gnashed their teeth in hatred. It seemed that the god hunters hiding in the dark had caused them a lot of pain. The battle of the gods had finally ended. The experts of the 12 divine dominions returned to their dominions and began to reorganize their forces. They recruited experts from their cities to form new divine guards to fill in the gaps. As the threat of Eternia grew closer and closer, the 12 overgods sought out Han Shuo to ask when Han Shuo would be able to break through Eternia's defensive barrier. Citing the fact that his main body was too weak to use the Cauldron of Myriad Demon, Han Shuo repeatedly refused to go to Eternia. Both his main body and avatar remained hidden in Pandemonium, silently preparing for the battle. In the blink of an eye, 150 years had passed. On this day, an intense wave of energy suddenly erupted from Pandemonium. The shockingly powerful energy wave caused the entire world to change. Many experts on Elysium felt a deep sense of danger. At almost the same time, the 12 overgods sensed the earth-shattering magnetic field that was leaking out from Pandemonium. With the Pandemonium as the center, the remaining mysticaline energy on Elysium gushed into the Pandemonium. Streams of mysticaline energy that were visible to the naked eye were sucked into the Pandemonium by a powerful suction force. The Pandemonium had turned into a sea of whiteness. The quintessence overgods could sense a mysterious energy emanating from the Pandemonium. They could also sense the terrifying aura emanating from the depths of the earth. The 12 quintessence overgods were shocked, and they couldn't help but return to the Pandemonium from their dominions. As far as the eye could see, the Pandemonium was filled with white mysticaline energy. This strange energy that had been formed on Elysium for millions of years had been completely absorbed by the Pandemonium over the past 200 years. The remaining energy was gathered in the Pandemonium, accumulating the last bit of energy for the transformation that was taking place in the depths of the earth. This energy is probably enough to tear apart Eternia's defensive barrier. Orcija, the goddess of destiny, sensed the constantly changing aura deep underground of Pandemonium. She watched as the mysticaline energy was compressed thousands of times and turned into a heavy liquid that slowly flowed like mercury. Orcija, have we made the wrong decision? Astinx, the god of light, took a deep breath and said, I am certain that his power has already surpassed ours. Even if the All-Mother perishes, he is still not someone we can deal with. Orcija fell silent. After a long while, she muttered, Astinx, I know what you are worried about, but don't you worry. If Eternia is destroyed, we will not be the first to suffer. Manju's eyes lit up when she heard that. She smiled and nodded. That's right. To the All-Mother, he is the greatest threat. No matter how powerful we are, our powers are bestowed by the All-Mother. This person, on the other hand, wields power that does not belong to this universe. To the All-Mother, His power should be the first to be eradicated. Everyone nodded in agreement after hearing Manju's words. Smiles reappeared on their faces. Nestet, Omphalos, and Gurado's eyes flickered with uncertainty. They, too, were shaken by the terrifying energy deep underground of Pandemonium. They began to wonder if working with Han Shuo was the right choice. The only one who was happy was the overgod of space, Fernando. Han Shuo's power had given him hope of leaving this universe and traveling to another. To him, the more powerful Han Shuo was, the better it would be. A long howl came from the depths of the Pandemonium. All of a sudden, the mysticaline energy that pervaded the entire Pandemonium plunged into the earth at a speed 100 times faster than normal. In just a few short minutes, an even more terrifying energy erupted from the depths of the earth. Crack, crack, crack. A long crevice was torn open in the Pandemonium. A figure shrouded in white dragon mist flew up into the sky. The mysticaline energy that flowed like mercury around his body was constantly being compressed. More and more energy was released from his body. All of a sudden, all the mist was sucked into his nose and mouth. All the liquid mysticaline energy was sucked into his pores. Under the gaze of the 12 overgods, he slowly returned to normal. Slowly, he became more and more like a normal person. It was also at this time that a spatial tunnel opened up and a huge white bone throne flashed into view. Evil, cold, hatred, fear, rage, violence, and other negative energies were released from the little skull, Han Hao, who was sitting on the bone throne. Looking at the ever-changing Han Shuo, the little skull, Han Hao softly said, "Father, my power has finally reached the peak. I am now the Lord of Demons, the Lord of all demons." A beam of dazzling light like the scorching sun suddenly burst out from Han Shuo's body. The light flashed and disappeared. When the light completely disappeared, a black-clothed Han Shuo appeared with a smile. "I'm ready." Looking at the 12 overgods, Han Shuo said, "If it's possible, let's go now." The 12 overgods, who had been waiting for this day for tens of thousands of years, immediately nodded in agreement when they heard Han Shuo's words. The overgod of space, Fernando, didn't waste any time. Impatient, the overgod of mind immediately created a spatial tunnel for the 12 overgods to enter. "Fernando, after this battle is over, I will help you break through the barriers of the universe and fulfill your wish," said Han Shuo as he watched the overgods enter. "Many thanks." Fernando gave a rare smile and gestured for Han Shuo to enter first. He smiled at the little skull, Han Shuo, who was sitting on the bone throne. Han Shuo took the lead and entered, followed by the little skull, Han Shuo. Chapter 1026. Amidst the thick mist, Eternia was still moving slowly. It was getting closer and closer to Elysium. Rays of light were released around Eternia. The energies of various elements were intertwined to protect the mysterious castle where the All-Mother resided. "We really don't have much time left." Orsiege's expression changed slightly. Judging from the trajectory of Eternia, it would probably hit Elysium in a few decades. Once Elysium was destroyed, the remaining gods would not be able to escape their fate. Without the support of faith, they would lose control of their quintessence and be easily killed by the All-Mother. Han Shuo, break the boundary. Monroe glared at Han Shuo hatefully and shouted, "If you can't break the boundary, we will kill you first. We, the Dominions, have paid such a heavy price just for this day." "Monroe, since when did you have the right to yell at me?" Han Shuo's eyes slanted as he coldly shot a glance at the goddess of water. "You." Manju was enraged. A crystal-clear water droplet suddenly flew out of her body and headed straight for Han Shuo. 200 years ago, Manju suddenly appeared at this place and restrained Han Shuo's avatar. She also used harsh words to humiliate Han Shuo. At that time, Han Shuo's main body was still in Pandemonium. His avatar's power was insufficient to contend against Manju. He could only endure it. "Humph." Han Shuo snorted coldly. The cauldron of myriad demon suddenly whizzed out of his body. Before the giant water droplet could get close, the cauldron lightly shook and rippled outwards. The ripple pushed Manju's water droplet far away. The powerful ripple then pushed Manju's water droplet away. Bang! It was as if Monroe's body had suffered a heavy blow, and her body was involuntarily thrown far away. She suddenly dispersed like flowing water, and only slowly reformed her body after a long while. She gnashed her teeth and glared at Han Shuo, but was unable to utter any more threatening words. That was 200 years ago. If you dare speak rudely to me again, I won't be so gentle next time. Han Shuo sneered. He reached out and grabbed the cauldron of myriad demon. You. Manju was furious, but she realized that today's Han Shuo was no longer someone she could bully. Don't talk about me, Manju. I'm telling you, you better behave yourself. Han Shuo said coldly. He glanced sideways at Astings and Lena, then at the 4 overgods of wind, fire, lightning, and earth. He suddenly laughed and said, Hee hee. I know that there are many who want to attack me after I break the boundary. I'll wait and see who gets the upper hand. Han Shuo said no more. His eyes turned solemn. Rays of black light shot out from his eyes and poured into the center of the cauldron of myriad demon. Suddenly, the cauldron of myriad demon released rays of black light. Terrifying howls that made one's hair stand on end came from it. It was as if there were many terrifying demons imprisoned in the cauldron of myriad demon, and they were trying to break free. During this process, the cauldron of myriad demon gradually expanded into a giant black sphere. Ancient and profound characters flowed on the surface of the sphere, and ghastly faces appeared one after another. An ancient, mysterious, evil, and boundless energy was gradually released from the cauldron of myriad demon. In an instant, the sun, moon, and stars alternated on the sphere, as well as mountains, rivers, and lakes dried up. Many vivid and lifelike images appeared on the surface of the sphere, depicting all kinds of natural sceneries. Rays of black light suddenly burst out of the cauldron of myriad demon. Each light had a life of its own. As soon as they flew out of the cauldron of myriad demon, they let out terrifying screams that shook the heavens and the earth. They devoured, tangled, and fused with each other. Slowly, they grew stronger. In just a few moments, they had formed an enormous circle of light. Crack, crack. A strange, crisp sound came from above Sky City, and the powerful barrier formed by the various forces of this universe actually cracked little by little along with the sound. What a terrifying power! It really broke Eternia's boundary. Bel, the goddess of wind, couldn't help but exclaim in shock. All of the quintessence overgods wore expressions of surprise and joy on their faces. They all stared intently at Eternia's boundary, which was slowly breaking apart. After waiting for God knows how many years, the boundary that they couldn't eat or sleep in peace was finally showing signs of breaking. While they were pleasantly surprised, they also felt an indescribable sense of fear. The power released from the cauldron of myriad demon was so vast and mysterious that even they, the so-called quintessence overgods, felt that they were no match for it. Eternia's boundary had yet to be broken, and they were already worried about the hidden danger that was Han Shuo. Crack, 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 crack. Crisp sounds came from the colorful boundary. As the sounds rang out, the boundary that had protected Eternia for countless years finally began to crack bit by bit, revealing tiny cracks that were hard to see with the naked eye. We can go in now. At that moment, the master god of space let out a bellow. The moment his voice landed, a spatial passageway appeared from a crack. However, when the time came, the strongest quintessence overgods on Elysium began to hesitate. They looked at each other and stopped in front of the dimensional passage. No one dared to take the first step. To them, the silent All-Mother in Eternia was the most terrifying existence in the universe. In their long lives, the shock that the Mother Goddess had brought them was too intense. Even though they knew that the Mother Goddess was heavily injured, they still hesitated at the most critical moment. If she doesn't die, you all will. This is a rare opportunity. What are you hesitating for? Han Shuo sneered. The dark light in his eyes intensified as he infused it into the cauldron of myriad demon, boosting its power and causing the crack in Eternia to widen. Perhaps because of Han Shuo's words, or Sija, the goddess of destiny, hesitated for a moment before she finally said, "That's right. If she doesn't die, we will all die. Everyone, we've waited for so long. It's about time we put an end to this. My power alone is definitely not enough to threaten her. I think we should work together at this time. I think we should delay the matter of Han Hao. To us, she is far more of a threat than anyone else. Perhaps we should all work together and eliminate her first before we talk about other things," Nestet, the overgod of death, suddenly said as he glanced at Han Shuo. If Han Shuo hadn't displayed his formidable power just now, perhaps these so-called quintessence overgods would have already started attacking Han Shuo. But after Han Shuo used his power to intimidate the goddess of water, Manju, they began to take Han Shuo's power seriously. No one dared to look down on an outsider like Han Shuo anymore. That's right. It's no longer appropriate for us to deal with Han Shuo according to our original plan. Astinx, the god of light, didn't deny his sinister intentions. He said, "Given Han Shuo's power, it's not very possible for us to kill him unscathed. We can't waste any more power at this time. Han Shuo, you know that she won't let you go either. I think we should finish her off first." "Oh, of course, that's what I mean too." Han Shuo smiled. "After she's dead, we'll slowly settle the score. At that time, we'll only know who will become the true master of this universe after a battle. Let's go in together." It was Orsija, the goddess of destiny, who spoke. She asked for the opinions of the others, and they all nodded in agreement. At this critical moment, the quintessence overgod's temperament of looking at the big picture was revealed. "Let's go," Fernando called out, taking the lead and slowly walking into the spatial tunnel. The quintessence overgods immediately followed, walking side by side with Fernando. Han Shuo gave little Skull Han Hao a look, and the two followed behind Fernando and the other quintessence overgods into the spatial tunnel. When Han Shuo entered the spatial tunnel, a dark light flashed in Han Shuo's eyes, and the cauldron of myriad demons suddenly roared. A series of explosions rang out, and the colorful barrier that enveloped Eternia was suddenly torn apart by the power of the cauldron of myriad demon, like a rag being torn apart. "It's all open," Fernando shouted, and hurriedly jumped into Eternia with Orsija and the others. Han Shuo and Han Hao followed closely behind, and when they stepped into Eternia, they didn't forget to grab the cauldron of myriad demon. Stepping on the stone floor of Eternia, which was made of an unknown material, one could see that the huge city was completely empty. There was no sign of life at all, only elements so dense that it made one's heart tremble. It was no less than the elements gathered by the quintessence power of the 12 quintessence overgods. Han Shuo spread his consciousness and wandered around the empty world of Eternia, but to his surprise, he couldn't sense any signs of life. It was as if this was a dead city, and he couldn't find anything. "There's no life. What's going on?" Han Shuo was shocked. He immediately asked Lena, the goddess of life, "Can you sense her presence?" "My power comes from her. Even if she's right next to me, it's difficult for me to sense her presence." Lena smiled bitterly and spread her hands helplessly at Han Shuo. "We have to find her first." Fernando, the overgod of space, frowned. After entering the city, his body swayed a few times, and he used teleportation to walk around the various regions, but he couldn't find any trace of the All-Mother. He was extremely shocked, and for a moment, he didn't know what to do. "You're finally here, my children. I've been waiting for you for a long time." All of a sudden, a gentle voice drifted over Eternia. After a pause, she continued, "You're already standing on me, and you're still looking for me. What a joke." Chapter 10:27. As soon as the voice fell, Eternia's barrier, which Han Shuo had torn apart with the cauldron of myriad demon, was restored in an instant. Multicolored light enveloped Eternia, enveloping the 12 quintessence overgods and Han Shuo at the same time. A series of violent rumbles came from the center of Eternia, and a giant, oval-shaped egg emerged from the depths of the city. As soon as the egg emerged, it began absorbing the elemental power of the various elements in the city. The beautiful patterns on the egg flickered, forming beautiful halos. Crack, Crack, crack. The huge egg cracked open, and a dazzlingly beautiful mature woman walked out of the eggshell. She was naked from head to toe, without a single piece of earthly clothing. She had a perfect body proportion, and her skin was sparkling, rippling with dazzling colors. Her pair of eyes, which contained the evolution of the vast stars, carried a faint smile. She walked out of the giant egg and raised her hand. The cracked giant egg suddenly flew out and wrapped around her beautiful body, the most exciting forbidden area. Beautiful patterns covered her body, giving people an intense shock that made them want to bow down and worship her. When the fragments of the cracked egg covered her body, the 12 quintessence overgods' expressions changed. Orsija first respectfully called out, "Mother Goddess," and then shouted, "What are you waiting for?" As soon as she said that, the other 11 quintessence overgods didn't hesitate and attacked at the same time. They used the power of faith to suppress the 12 quintessence overgods, and the 12 quintessence overgods that had fused with them instantly erupted with earth-shattering power. Some quintessence overgods protruded from their chests, some appeared in their eyes, and some were held in their palms. The 12 quintessence overgods knew that if they wanted to fight her, they had to unleash all of their power in an instant, unleashing the full power of their quintessence overgods. A sea of fire, wind, lightning, frost, blinding light, endless darkness, and the power of destruction. All of a sudden, it was as if the world had ceased to exist. The power of the 12 godhood overgods was pushed to the limit, and the entire world went silent. The power of the 12 godhood overgods surged toward All-Mother, as if they were going to kill her in a single strike. "My adorable children, your powers were all bestowed upon you by me. How could you possibly harm me?" The Mother Goddess of Creation smiled kindly. She did not move, but a dazzling, colorful light suddenly bloomed from her body. The light intertwined and formed a protective boundary similar to the one outside the Sky Castle. The attacks of the 12 quintessence overgods were like pebbles sinking into the ocean as soon as they hit the barrier she had created. They couldn't do any damage to her at all. The 12 quintessence overgods looked horrified. These vessels contain the auras of light, darkness, death, destruction, wind, fire, lightning, earth, space-time, fate, life, and water, and gave off powerful energy waves. Quintessence vessels. Asdens turned pale with fright. The divine spark in his chest began to go out of control, and it slowly lifted him up into the container that contained the divine spark. It wasn't just Astings. All of the quintessence overgods except Han Hao began to lose control of their bodies. They were being controlled by the quintessence within them, and they were slowly being pulled towards the corresponding quintessence vessels. "I can't resist you, but I can kill them." Orsija, the goddess of destiny, suddenly screamed madly. The mirror of destiny in her hand suddenly shone with strange colors, and the threads that represented the trajectory of destiny quickly tangled with each other. In just a short while, the trillions of threads in the mirror of destiny that represented the trajectory of destiny tangled into 11 abnormally thick and long lines. As soon as the 11 abnormally thick lines took shape, all of the quintessence overgods except Orsija paled, and their divine souls began to lose control. "Orsija, what are you doing?" Nestet, the overgod of death, shouted in shock. "You'll never be able to escape her control. You're all going to die anyway, so I'll set you free forever." Orsija smiled coldly and suddenly pulled at the 11 intertwined thick lines in the mirror of destiny. "Orsija, you're courting death." The face of the All-Mother, who had been calm all this while, finally changed. She pointed a finger at Orsija, and a strange ray of light suddenly shot towards Orsija. Orsija, who was pulling at the thick lines in the mirror of destiny, was horrified. She shouted, "Hanshua, hurry up and help me. I've spent so much effort to create a war of the gods on Elysium, and I've collected so many divine souls into the mirror of destiny just for this moment. As long as all the thick lines in the mirror of destiny that represent the divine souls of the quintessence overgods explode, the 11 divine souls and quintessence of the All-Mother will be completely destroyed. Only then will you have the chance to kill her." Han Hao, do it now. Han Shuo only hesitated for a split second before he threw the cauldron of myriad demon at Ursija. Millions of dark rays suddenly illuminated Eternia, protecting Ursija within. Although the overgod of space, Fernando, would perish, they only had one chance. If they didn't seize this rare opportunity, they would never have another chance to resist. For the sake of the fringe, for the sake of pandemonium, for the sake of his family and friends, Han Shuo had no choice but to give it his all. The cauldron of myriad demons' dark radiance blocked the strange light shot by the All-Mother. The energies of two universes erupted in dazzling colors in an instant. Han Shuo's body trembled as blood flowed uncontrollably from his body. He barely managed to withstand the All-Mother's attack. "You are still far from that person, Han Shuo. How are you going to stop me?" said the All-Mother with a faint smile. She watched as the 12 quintessence overgods, including Ursija, slowly moved towards the quintessence vessel. Suddenly, 11 five-colored halos flew out of her hand and enveloped all the quintessence overgods except for Ursija. "Oh no, Han Shuo, help me out. Now that she's added a defensive barrier, even if I detonate their divine souls, I won't be able to blow up their quintessences as well. Han Shuo, destroy those 11 defensive perimeters. That's the only way I can destroy their quintessence." Althea shrieked in panic. "Understood," shouted Han Shuo. At the same time, a majestic figure carrying with it a strange power broke through the barrier of Eternia and landed in front of the All-Mother. It was none other than Han Shuo's avatar. 200 years later, this avatar was no longer the half-finished product that was created using spatial energy. Its face was flawless, without a single crack in the middle. Back then, Han Shuo couldn't fuse the two energies together. Because his main body needed to use the mysticaline energy to temper his body in the pandemonium, he couldn't get intimate with any of his women. After 200 years, Han Shuo finally couldn't hold it in any longer. He used this avatar to have intercourse with Rose, who didn't reject him at all. Unexpectedly, he discovered that the two avatars showed signs of fusing when they intercourse using the yin and yang intercourse technique of demonic arts. After a long period of intercourse with Tanai and the other women, Han Shuo finally succeeded in fusing the two avatars together 30 years ago, becoming an anomaly in this universe. The All-Mother's expression changed slightly. She stared at the new Han Shuo, and her eyes lit up. She exclaimed, "Not bad. Not bad at all. His body is almost the same as mine. After fusing the 12 energies, he can rival my body from 50 billion years ago. That's great. I can fuse with this body of yours. That way, I'll be stronger than I was at my peak." "Han Hao, attack!" shouted Han Shuo. His main body and avatar charged at the All-Mother together. Han Hao, who was connected to his mind, moved his white bone throne, and the 7 bone spurs on his back shot out. The energy of despair, fear, violence, bloodlust, and endless hatred were released from the little skull Han Hao. Together with Han Shuo's 2 bodies, they charged at the All-Mother. The 7 bone spurs on his back changed direction midway and stabbed at the light enveloping the 11 overgods. Han Shuo's main body and avatar, as well as the little skull, unleashed their full power in an instant. Han Shuo held the cauldron of myriad demon in his hand. 100,000 demon generals flew out of the cauldron of myriad demon. The light from the 13 energies on his avatar and the negative energy from the bone spur in Han Hao's hand converged into one. If it was any other quintessence overgod, they would definitely die in the face of these 3 powers. The All-Mother's expression was solemn. A strange light flashed in her eyes, and her body suddenly shrunk into a ball. The shattered eggshell reassembled itself into a giant egg that wrapped around the All-Mother. Crack, crack, crack. Crack, crack, crack. Loud noises came from the top of the egg. It was unknown what material the egg was made of, but colorful light flowed on it like flowing water. It actually nullified most of the power from Han Shuo and his father, especially the power from Han Shuo's avatar. It didn't seem to have much effect on the egg. Only the demonic arts from Han Shuo's avatar and the negative energy from the universe released by the little skull could cause the egg to make loud noises and shake. "Don't stop, Han Hao," shouted Han Shuo. The thousands of demon generals in the cauldron of myriad demon gathered together and slowly grew into a terrifying fist that slammed into the giant egg. This strike was the combined power of Han Shuo's avatar and all the demon generals in the cauldron of myriad demon. It was Han Shuo's limit. When the fist landed, the giant egg finally cracked with a crisp sound. Before Han Shuo could launch a second strike, the shattered eggshell once again attached itself to the All-Mother's body. The luster on her skin dimmed a little. She hurriedly retreated a long distance before she finally said with a cold look in her eyes, "You're courting death." With that, the All-Mother made a strange gesture with both hands. A new quintessence vessel suddenly appeared out of thin air. As soon as the quintessence vessel appeared, a dark light burst out of it. Not only was it larger than the other 12 quintessence vessels, but its aura was also longer and more endless. Not only did it carry the aura of the All-Mother, but it also carried a trace of Han Shuo's evil aura. As soon as the quintessence vessel appeared, it instantly crossed the distance between them and latched onto the little skull Han Hao's head. The expression in the little skull Han Hao's eyes immediately became dull as he stared blankly at the All-Mother. The 7 bone spurs that were shooting at the other quintessence overgods suddenly froze in the void. "My child, you are my true child, my only child." The All-Mother's eyes were filled with a gentle light as she looked at the little skull Han Hao lovingly. She smiled and said, "Your father wants to kill me, your mother, as our son. Are you going to watch your father kill your mother?" "No." The little skull was stunned for a moment, and he pointed the bone spur in his hand at Han Shuo. What the hell is going on?" Han Shuo was shocked. He looked at the little skull Han Hao in disbelief, and then at the All-Mother. He felt like he was about to break down. The All-Mother was full of smiles. She first said to the little skull, "Good child." Then, she smiled at Han Shuo and said, "Do you think he can really grow to this stage with just your bloodline and your incomplete memories of demonic arts?" Hee. Han Shuo. Oh Han Shuo. Ever since this child obtained the gravestone, his body has started to have a part of my blood and brand. It's just that you and he don't know it. Without my blood and spiritual brand, how could he improve so quickly? How could he be on par with you? How could he cultivate a new quintessence? Therefore, it's not an exaggeration to say that he is our child. As his father, it's naturally impossible for you to ask him to kill me." Hearing this, Han Shuo was shocked. He finally understood why the little skull could improve so quickly, why he could form a new quintessence, why his quintessence did not need the support of the power of faith, and why it was different from Nestet and the others. It turned out that a long time ago, the All-Mother had planted a seed in Han Hao's body, a seed that could allow him to mutate and grow stronger. "What did you do to him? He's obviously not who he used to be." Han Shuo roared. He looked at the little skull who was staring blankly at him with the bone spur in her hand. He felt a pain in his heart. "Don't worry. You will die, but he won't. In this universe, he will be the only family I have in my long life. He is my real child." Althea was right. I've always treated them as slaves. They don't deserve to be my children. They don't have my blood in them, nor do they have my imprint. Without your blood and the memories of your world, how could my child have become so powerful? Don't worry, this child of ours will be the only master of this universe in the future. After I obtain the power of Althea and the others, I'll go to your universe and take it for myself." The All-Mother suddenly laughed. "Ha ha ha, I have to thank you, Han Shuo. If it weren't for your blood and the memories of your world, how could my child become so powerful?" After laughing, the All-Mother suddenly shouted, "Han Hao, kill your father, and this universe will be yours." Under the All-Mother's command, the little skull, Han Hao, no longer recognized Han Shuo. He raised his bone spur and charged at Han Shuo mercilessly. At the same time, the All-Mother also made a move. She continued to collect the 12 quintessences into the quintessences container while blocking Han Shuo's path. Even though her power had been severely damaged, it was not something that Han Shuo could fight against. She easily forced Han Shuo to hide. "Han Hao, wake up. Wake up. I am your father. Your only father." Han Shua's avatar shouted. His main body was also howling, trying to awaken the little skull's consciousness so that he could understand what was happening. Han Shua could not bear to hurt the little skull, so he kept dodging. The avatar was cut by the bone spur and the negative energy of the universe. On the other side, Han Shua's avatar was being attacked by the All-Mother. He was constantly being attacked by the All-Mother's power of the universe. Han Shua's arm, chest, abdomen, and waist were all injured. Even the invincible Omen body could not withstand the All-Mother's attacks. Blood flowed uncontrollably. Han Shua could only continue to burn the divine soul in the cauldron of myriad demon to form layers of protective shields to block the All-Mother's fatal attacks. Accept your fate. I've been plotting against you ever since I learned of your existence. The reason you're still alive is not because of Fernando or Orcija, but because I need you to be strong enough. Only when you're strong enough can our son continue to improve, and only then can I obtain more power from you. Hee. After obtaining the power from both of your bodies, I can use your method to break through the barriers between the two universes and do whatever I want in the universe where your soul resides. You must know that all of this has already been predestined, and you will never be able to change it. The All-Mother, who was inflicting more and more injuries on Han Shua's body, said with a gentle smile. Orcija, the goddess of destiny, watched helplessly as the situation unfolded. Her power came from the All-Mother. Even if she joined in, she would not be able to affect the All-Mother in the slightest. Instead, she would only increase the All-Mother's power. At this rate, everyone who came to Eternia would be wiped out by the All-Mother in one fell swoop. The All-Mother, who had calculated everything, would not allow anyone to leave this place. Neither Orcija nor Han Shua had taken Han Hao into account. Therefore, they could only keep losing. On the other side, Han Shua's avatar that was constantly dodging had its heart and lungs pierced by the bone spear in Little Skull's hand. The Little Skull pulled out the bone spear and was about to stab the head of Han Shua's avatar. Han Hao, wake up. Wake up. Have you forgotten? Back when we were in the Profound Continent Academy, you stood up for me, did chores for me, taught Lisa a lesson for me, taught me a lesson. For the first time, panic appeared on Han Shua's face. He was unable to kill Han Hao and the situation was getting more and more unfavorable for him. Perhaps it was because of Han Shua's heart-wrenching cry, but Little Skull was stunned for a moment before he suddenly hugged his head and cried bitterly. It was as though there were thousands of sharp knives spinning in his head. His eyes alternated between confusion and clarity, constantly changing. When the All-Mother saw the state Han Hao was in, her expression changed slightly. She did not expect that Little Skull would be able to break free from the mental imprint she had left on him many years ago. She planned to exert more strength to control Han Hao. It was at this moment that Han Shua's avatar attacked her like a madman. The 100,000 demon generals of the cauldron of myriad demon flew out and fused with the energy in Han Shua's body at all costs, biting at the All-Mother with all their might. Han Hao clutched his head and screamed, I only have a father, not a mother. As soon as he finished those words, he stabbed a bone spear into a quintessence container beside him. With a loud explosion, the quintessence container exploded. The other 7 bone spears that had been quietly hovering in the air moved at the same time, shattering the defensive circle above the 11 quintessence overgods. No! The mother goddess of creation finally cried out in alarm and let out an uncontrollable scream of panic. The goddess of destiny, Orcija, who had been waiting for an opportunity, finally found it. In an instant, she twisted the 11 thick lines of the Mirror of Destiny, and the Mirror of Destiny exploded in an instant. As soon as the Mirror of Destiny exploded, the bodies and souls of the 10 overgods, excluding the overgod of space and Fernando, were instantly reduced to ashes. 10 crisp sounds rang out, and the 10 quintessence exploded one after another. The All-Mother, who was attacking Han Shua's avatar in a frenzy, heard 10 loud explosions in a row. With each explosion, the All-Mother's face paled a little. When the last explosion rang out, she staggered, as if she had run out of energy. Han Hao, let's work together and kill this bitch, Han Hao yelled. On the other side, Han Hao's eyes regained clarity. He joined forces with Han Shua's avatar and bombarded the All-Mother's body with great force. The All-Mother was heavily injured. On the other side, the Overgod of Space, Fernando, who had luckily escaped death after Han Hao destroyed his quintessence vessel, stood together with the Goddess of Destiny. They watched in horror as Han Shua and his father attacked the All-Mother. They watched as their attacks landed on the All-Mother, riddled her body with holes, and her life aura slowly dissipating. All of a sudden, the cauldron of myriad demon in Han Shua's hand descended and forcibly sucked the creator deities into it. Using the quintessences and divine souls of the 10 quintessence overgods before their deaths, as well as the power of the 100,000 demon generals in the cauldron of myriad demon, the All-Mother was temporarily trapped in the cauldron of myriad demon. Han Shua grabbed the cauldron of myriad demon and shouted, "Fernando, open the passage to the pandemonium. I want to use the pandemonium to refine her to death." Fernando was shocked. He immediately tore open a rift in space and let Han Shua and his son leave first. He followed the Goddess of Destiny, or Sija, to the pandemonium. As soon as they left, the Sky City, perhaps having lost the support of the All-Mother's energy, exploded violently in the vast sea of stars, turning into cosmic dust in just a few moments. The Ninth Realm mystical information was reactivated in the pandemonium. This time, the source of energy was Han Shua's body. Using the quintessence and divine souls of the 10 quintessence overgods, the 100,000 demon generals in the cauldron of myriad demon, and the mystical energy that his main body had accumulated over the years, Han Shua began refining the All-Mother within the cauldron of myriad demon. Time flew and 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. With the Overgod of Space, the Goddess of Destiny, and Han Hao working together to protect him, Han Shua spent 100 years refining all of the All-Mother's consciousness. While refining the All-Mother's consciousness, Han Shua's avatar was slowly absorbing the refined energy from the All-Mother through the cauldron of myriad demon. By the time the All-Mother's energy was gone, Han Shua's avatar had become incredibly powerful. Han Shua finally walked out of Tanai. His gaze swept across Fernando, Sija, Gilbert, Emily, the 5 elite zombies, Andrina, Phoebe, Wasis, and the others. He smiled and said, "She has completely vanished. From now on, there will be no more ruler in this universe. From now on, you are the new ruler," Sija said softly with a faint smile. "I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I thought you were with the other 10. Han Shua looked at Sija and sincerely apologized. Sija smiled and shook her head. She gently said, "You don't have to apologize. I've been waiting for this opportunity. I've done many things that I shouldn't have done in order to achieve this goal. But fortunately, you succeeded. You didn't disappoint me. You aren't another All-Mother. You wouldn't do such a heartless thing." Han Shua, when will you open the portal for me? I want to go out for a walk. The Overgod of Space, Fernando, put on a rare smile and said to Han Shua, "In another 100 years, when my main body has absorbed some of the energy in this universe and ascended to the exalted Demon Lord realm, I will open the portal for you," Han Shua said smilingly. "I also want to go out and take a look," Han Shua said. Sija chuckled and glanced at Fernando. She said softly, "Let's go. Let's not disturb him." "Father, you've finally come out," the little skull, Han Hao, looked at Han Shua with a natural smile on his face. Han Shua patted his son's head and did not say anything. The father-son relationship between the two needed no words to describe. His eyes swept across Phoebe, Fanny, Emily, Lisa, Donna, Sophie, Jasper, Rose, and the other girls. Han Shua's expression was ambiguous. He said, "I know that all of you want children for a long, long time. From now on, I'll give you children. I'll give you as many as you want." The girls blushed, but they were overjoyed. End of book. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.